Okay, so I ramble a lot. Have fun with that, but I'm not editing it for once, so yay. Okay, so first question. Why did I join via production class? Well, I was always a creative kid. I really did just about everything, like painting, drawing, even like ceramics, like weird ceramics at some point. But I also always played around with cameras and photography too. I mean, I bet you even when I was a kid, from what I remember, like a very, very young kid, like taller maybe, and, like home videos and stuff. I remember at some point seeing a video where I was more interested in the camera than what my mom was saying. And if it wasn't one of those big bulky film cameras, then I probably would have run off with it. And once my parents went to digital cameras, then it was more like child friendly because they were more like, oh, in your pocket cameras. And my mom got this camera and I kept stealing it from her and taking pictures. But also a crucial part of it, which is what led to film related things, was the fact that there's a video mode on here. And so then I started taking pictures of everything and taking videos of everything. And also, when I was a kid, film for me always stemmed from my childhood. Whenever I would watch movies, I would watch a lot of, the classics with, every Friday with my brother. And then, a mix of stuff from, the late 2000s. I mean, we would always watch classics like Robin Hood, some, Disney princess movies, for our age. It was appropriate more than now it's oh, nostalgia. All the stuff that's being remade, we would watch the originals. And I remember thinking, oh, I want to make that. I want to do that. I want to write stories and I want to record stories, which stemmed to film. And I remember in middle school I was like, oh, there's a class for that? I knew it was a career, but my 11-year-old brain didn't consciously know that it was a thing people did, even though you saw their project, because you don't see the people. You didn't actually know, oh, I can do that. And then I did that in middle school, and now I continued it in high school. I ramble a lot. Damn, okay. Okay, so how is this year's classes different from past years? So, this is a given also with just online classes in general, but it's very individual work, even when we do group projects. In film especially, with the projects I worked on, we are by ourselves, but we're doing our own separate jobs, but it's all over a Discord or Zoom call, just messaging each other about how things are going. And sometimes some people don't even see the final product to the very end, because there's an editor, there's someone working in pre-production, there's someone that works with shooting things. But now that we're not all together all the time, the editor, even though they wouldn't work do the most part, except maybe some offhanded ideas in pre-production or story, or contributing besides just, oh, I'm gonna edit this. Is that we would do everything together, or at least be around to do the jobs together. But now we're all separate, but come together in the end, which is it's not weird. Everything about doing anything online is weird. But it's new, and I feel it's somewhat more what it is in the real, because obviously with a crew of hundreds, you see credits and watch the whole thing, unless it's a Marvel movie and there's an end credit scene, because it's so long. Those people aren't all working together all the time. They do their job, and then if it's makeup artists, they do their job, and then they're not hanging around looking how things look in post. That's what we usually do in class, because we're all doing a mix of everything, because we're in high school and we're like learning how to do everything. But then now we know our jobs and we do them. I mean, like, eventually with advanced classes, we usually did that. Like, we eventually knew, like, oh, who's the writers, who, like, is, like, the lighting technician, who's the editor, special effects, the, like, but now it's like, oh, yeah, that's all we really do with projects. And even if, like, you edit or shoot, I mean, whenever we eventually do that, like, you don't have to work on projects you don't want to. Like, we can do anything, really, and have, like, some progress. I mean, people can even just work on, like, designing things for something, and you can get credit for that. It's like, oh, just do something film related. Even just like all people are doing video essays. Like, that's not what is telling a story, but not like a stereotypical story for a video, but like for a short or a movie or anything. But it's still like analyzing things, which is what we do a lot. I'm looking at notes, so I don't as much. Kind of with things on the spot. Oh yeah, with like also calling off of the lack of doing things together, it's mostly shoots we're not doing together. I mean, we're not like doing, also with quarantine restrictions, we're not doing any shoots where it's a night shoot for 3 days straight for 8 hours each, just trying to get something done before the weekend, or doing like maybe like a 6-hour shoot. That's like 6 to 8 hour shoot with driving and setting up and everything. For us, for the actors, probably wasn't that long. I don't think it was. And it started early in the morning in the winter, or I was out in cold. Yeah, we're not doing that anymore with the quarantine. Yeah. We're doing less hands-on stuff. I mean, also with when we're going back into school, like the time that's back in school, we're going to do more like hands-on things, mostly like an equipment, from what I remember. Yep. Yeah, also with film class, we're like film in general, we eventually like we're like not everyone but like friends I've made from that class, it was usually because we had to be around each other a lot. I mean, our class literally has no windows, so like we have to look at what we're doing. And it's like a tight-knit space. And so and when the people that were around us were like pretty close to them, or we can hear them, or like something. And from having like the long shoots, long post-production part of the project, or even just like looking at other people's progress, like rough drafts, like how many of those we would do. It's weird not like seeing them as much. I mean, again, this comes with anything in quarantine, but with people in film, because eventually you'll like work with a person in that class for a long time for a project, or you like know what they're doing, or you like work like next to them, sometimes literally. And so it's just weird not seeing them for like those massive amounts of hours, and like with teams you don't see anyone except like Bradford occasionally. Yeah, like often our classes is like watch someone's rough, and then some people give critiques, and then we go just work on our own stuff, and we can go leave and do whatever. Yeah, we also would do that in class, but it's like with people, and you can like go out to the library, go in the lab, like do whatever you're working on currently. But now it's just so isolating. Again, that's with anything in quarantine, but with film especially, because it's like so much social interaction is just gone. Like that's how, like, I have friends in film, and that's what our like social interaction was doing stuff for film, and that's how we would also like hang out, because for a lot of us it's fun. Like it's like a hard work kind of fun, and sometimes annoying when like things don't work out. But we enjoyed it for the most part, and just not being around each other is really weird. You know, there's only so much you can really get with like talking about like quick updates or like ideas we have over a Zoom or Discord call, like I've been doing with the project we're doing now. And someone was just texting, hey, can you do this? And then like someone's like, oh, what about this? Like there's just no interaction, like no hanging like 4 or 5 of us at a computer anymore in a lab. Now there's just like completely separate jobs. I am ranting a lot. What are some struggles you experience with video production as an online class? Okay. So I find that a lot of the struggles can also kind of work like as a benefit almost at the same time. Like with doing it online, you're doing a lot of stuff on your own. But for some people like me, that's also a benefit. Like, oh, you get to do your project from start to finish without you on it. Like, no outside influence. But also that is, it's not the worst, but it's also not the best. Because you don't get any, like, other ideas that aren't in your head. Like, I always would, like, message my friends, like, hey, can you watch this? Or, like, what do you think of this? And because it's my friends, they know kind of, like, what I'm looking for, or they know about the project more than, like, the average person, or, like, average person doesn't know anything at all. And so they're a bit biased to what I'm asking about, because they know kind of what I'm like. I mean, with projects, we usually are working with at least 3 to 4 people, so there's more, like it could be a bigger project. When you try to do that by yourself, it can take months. That's what I've done with one of my projects. Yeah, you really don't get, also what I was saying earlier, you don't get a lot of critiques from people, like with your progress. I mean, you don't have to pitch it to anyone. With most things that we're doing, you don't have to pitch it. You don't have to work with other people. So you just kind of keep doing what you're doing, and you don't know, like, if it's, like, the best idea, or you can't really, like, maybe someone comes up with a really great idea, and you're like, oh, I like that. I'm going to include it in whatever. Like, we don't get that anymore. Like, even if someone's not in your group, they can, like, give other ideas that could possibly work. Or you can, like, think, or you can base something off of that, or, like, work off of that. Yeah. Also, what I've noticed is because in class, they've shown some of my videos in class, like, it's different just hearing what people say afterwards and not seeing, like, their unspoken reactions, like, you know, how people emote. You can't really see any of that, which is interesting. Like, it's just my hair. Like, it's just, again, it's always going to come back to the feeling of isolation, because we don't have, like, a whole day where you watch everyone's drafts and everyone critiques it, and we all, like, talk about what we have, like, left to do, what we know we're gonna, like, will stand out, but, like, our plan for it, and kind of, like, spending days, like, sometimes 2 days, depending on how long critiques are, how long the actual video is. And now it's just, like, you show the final to class and maybe, like, the rough draft to, like, some of your friends, like I've done, or to Bradford, and get, like, a couple things like that do help, obviously, but also with not really having other outside influences. You just kind of go with it and you're like, all right, it's a finished product, we're good. And like in class we've shown some of mine and then they only like talk about the positives. I mean, it's already done, but kind of saying like, oh, I liked blank and blank, but maybe some like in the rough or something like that could have said like a given critique. Like, you know, like get critiques as you're working on, you kind of get it when you're almost done, and it's either like annoying to change back or like it doesn't matter anymore. I mean, I haven't like had that really yet, but I feel like I would if I was working on like a full-on visual story. I mean, I've done that, but I literally scripted something that I could do and like produce something that I could do that I can make mostly by myself with some help. And I've also, like, some struggles I've had was who I could ask for help. Again, it's not just asking people in front that are my friends. It's like trying to teach my mom how to slate and her not getting it at first because I'm shooting in my house, and with quarantine, can't have other people in my house. So, and what are pros and cons of having video production online? Like I said, it's a lot of things that come with doing it online and not just in person are like both pros and cons. Like what I said earlier, being able to work on your own time for the most part, except for like some projects that we've done with a group of people, either like who we chose or who we did like with the project at the very first thing we did this year. It was a really short project. Now that I think about it, maybe it was a minute max. And you did with like 2-3 other people. Yeah, that was interesting. That was weird. Yeah, also, like, working on your own, like what I said earlier, it's nice to have, like, your vision be set forward, but it also creates stress and difficulty when you try to do it, like, all by yourself. I mean, I've come up with, like, elaborate things or things that take a long time, but obviously wouldn't with more hands and more brains that aren't my own. Yeah, and also just other schoolwork in general. Yeah, like depending on the difficulty, schoolwork or like lack of motivation, like projects can have varying level of difficulty to finish. I mean, I usually like incentive for me to finish projects is often film festival submissions and competition submissions. I mean, it's kind of bad that that's my incentive, but it also isn't because I finished the project and to submit it for something. But it's just kind of like, oh, it's not like, oh, I want to finish the project because I want to finish it. No, it's like, oh, I want to submit it to a festival. It's like, oh, this thing that I did all by myself. Look what I did. That's what I feel like whenever I finish the projects and like show it to some people. I'm like, look what I did. Like what a kid does whenever they like have like a painting that like goes on like a fridge. And what are some challenges you've had to overcome when making films during a pandemic? Well, some challenges that I've come up with, like even like the end of last year, is that I was trying to think of because I wanted to try to write but also produce what I've written with like shorts, not some of the longer scripts that I've written, is that I try to figure out things that I could do with the restrictions that we have, and that kind of limits also it like creates some different levels of creativity but also limits it a little bit. I mean, my short doll face is literally what I call like, if I come up with the problem, then it's like solving problems, the short. It's like, oh, I can't work with human actors, and I also need to do it on my own for the most part. Oh, let's get some puppets so I can do with that. I also don't want to do like a mix of voices and make it weird and like get people to voice act, because that is a whole problem all on its own. Oh, let's have it be a mock silent film, so then no one's actually talking and it's on the screen. And that kind of created this story from there with the limitations that I had. Like, I wrote the story with the limitations because I'm not a stop motion animator, and so puppets are very limited in motion. That's why there's literally parts, like in the fight scene, where there's actual people. So, because like the puppets can't move like that. So, another problem solution. And with like color correction, I literally got my friend to do is like, oh, the one thing that like I don't trust myself to do at all, because like they're all very brightly colored. And my thought just left me. Okay. And also with Dollface, again, because I was mostly doing it by myself, but because of the camera I was using, the 80D, it was like a very interesting aperture I had to use to get it to work. Like, look what I wanted it to look like. So I'd have the camera far away from the place in my kitchen I was shooting. And I had to teach my mom how to slate for that, and like how to turn on and off the camera, because it was far away, and sometimes I had to like hold up a puppet because they could barely stand on their own, or it was like a movement and I didn't want to like mess around with the camera and stuff like that. Also, I didn't have to edit out like half the clip being just dead space for some shots that are really short. Yeah. And also just general problems with doing online school, where you like don't really feel like you're learning new things because you're not like seeing. Yeah, what I've noticed with online school in general, not just with film, is that like I don't really feel like I'm learning anything. That's sort of the same with film, because we were kind of just doing like what we want to do, and we're not necessarily learning too many techniques. I mean, Bradford showed us like how to like some of the stuff with cameras and how to do all that, but we already like knew how to set up a camera. This isn't like learning something new for us, really. But also I feel like just doing online school and like getting routine and figuring out how to do stuff, like what I said with Dollface, like learning how to adapt is a skill all in itself. But I don't like feel like I'm learning something new. I just know, oh yeah, adapting is a skill itself. But you don't, like, that's just a human thing to do, or like in any like evolving thing to do. It's not like, oh, I learned how to format a script better, or I learned how to set up lights in a certain way that I like. Like, we're not doing a lot of that. I mean, I'm doing it a little bit, but that's because I have like my own equipment and my own stuff that I bought either during quarantine or before quarantine. But most people aren't like that. So as a whole, it doesn't feel like we're learning that much new stuff. That doesn't just come with doing remote things in general. How did your previous years of video production classes go? They were interesting, to say the least. Because most of the people I had to work with either wanted to try and like be a director, or they didn't do that much that was helpful. Like, not to say that like everyone was like that, obviously. But like having to put with people that you didn't choose to be with, or like, you know, that you work well with, and like, oh, I like write, and like, oh, my friend like Evelyn produces, or my friend Sydney like works like doing storyboarding, and like likes doing like more pre-production stuff. Like, because you didn't get to pick and choose, or also because like at that point in like advance, like we all had like figure out our own roles, or like what we usually do in film, or like what we're best at doing in film, or like what we like the most. And it often didn't create like the best dynamic or like the best video, because we were just like combat, like sometimes we would like either like mostly certain people were working on stuff, or you could see like what parts of the video were lower in quality. Luckily in this year, like I work with my friends and I get to choose who I work with, and like putting the bet, like I'm not, this is just sounds so egotistical, like putting like for the project I have in mind, like with who I know and who I like have worked with or want to work with. It's like I'm putting together like some of the best people that I'm aware of to like what the best of what they're doing to like make a video from that, which is really fun to do, honestly, because it's like working with your friends, and it's like doing anything with your friends, depending what it is. Like with film related things specifically, it can be really fun. It can work out pretty well, and you won't clash. That's what I did a lot in like previous years. I mean, like sometimes like when I wouldn't clash, like the video, because like not a lot of people didn't put a lot of effort into it. And often, sometimes even I did, because I was like, this isn't gonna turn out well. Like, I'm not, it's like trying to save like a already sinking ship. Like, you can't, you can't fix that. Yeah. Yeah, like, I did get to work on writing some projects in previous years, but honestly, which I want to in general, because I really love writing for film. I mean, over summer, I wrote a movie script that I'm still working on. Because I usually like to work in pre-production. And now, like, often I would get stuck doing editing because either they didn't know how to edit or, like, I just, like, filled in, like, the holes of jobs either people just wouldn't do, or I was the best at, even though I knew other people that were better at things than me. And I was like, I'd rather have someone else do this, but okay, I'll do it. And I get to work more in roles that I like doing and that I feel like I'm the best at because I like doing it, more than just liking to do film in general. Oh yeah, I'm just remembering some other stuff that I wanted to say for like other projects, like just with quarantine in general that I forgot to say. Okay, yeah, with quarantine this year, I think, compared to previous years, again, because we don't have to do a project by project basis, I've produced a lot more videos in like this year than, or like I'm working on, than like any other single year. Because I just get to do it on my own schedule, get to do it on my own time. Also, like I'm not gonna go into detail about all of them because I'm just gonna be bragging and forget something. If you ever want to know what I'm working on, just ask. Editor. Ow. Okay, I'm just spazzing, it's fine. Yeah, also, like, this year compared to previous years, I, like, also this kind of relates back to challenges, or, like, pros and cons. A lot of these kind of mold together for me. You can kind of guess, like, a lot of, like, oh, pros and cons, struggles, they kind of just meld together. Is that also a lot of time this quarantine, it hasn't been, like, producing as many of my projects that I come up with ideas for. Because I've done a lot of pre-production for, like, I've done a lot of pre-production for things, like, that are very visual, because I like to base my, like, some of my visual projects, like, either, like, a music video, or, like, a part of a visual story that's very visual, or, like, with a lot of colors. I like to base a lot of stuff that I do off of some of my photography, like, oh, this looks good as a still, but let's see what I can do with it in a video, like literally like motion pictures. And depending on how, like, what it looks like compositionally, or colors that look nice with my LED. I love my neighbors. Okay. or compositionally with with colors with my LED lights that I have, like with gels, because ever since I got my camera, like right when I found out that you can like use lenses or gels for things, I was just like, oh, I love this. This is great. I hate doing lighting, like natural lighting, but I love, this is a photography term, like painting with light, because it's so fun. Like natural lighting is so not fun. After you like make someone like red or blue, like why would you want to have a natural light and all, like not playing around with color theory and like what it kind of can show on its own in a video or film or anything? Like why would you not want to? It's fun. It looks so cool. I also like with those projects, I like play around with sounds. Like I'm definitely not a sound technician, but I love like with lighting, I like messing around and like seeing how weird I can make it or how interesting I can get it to be. Cause I like one of the only things I haven't done this year yet is a music video. Hoping to do that for fourth quarter, cause I would have just about done everything in film class then, so I can say, all right, I've done everything. I know what I like. Yeah, I literally like play around with color swatches sometimes to kind of pair with my photography to see like what color combos look good, like also with lighting or like with wardrobe or anything like that. Just like what is seen on screen, seeing what color combinations look nice together, and like see like, oh, from what I'm thinking of, like what colors or what techniques will look nice with that. I'm just ranting about color. Yeah, I think I'm good. Yeah. Okay, I'm done. Thanks. I just remembered some other good, important things to say on top of the 32-minute video. Have fun with whoever's editing this. Yeah, I remembered that my mom's camera, that I used it more than her, so that camera was more mine than my mom's. And also a thing that's different with remote film is that oftentimes, well, because I'm seeing less people's videos, we're not all forced to, like, not forced, we're not all, like, producing videos or shorts or anything like that. And so I don't get to see any people's projects or anything like that. Also because we're not going to festivals like we usually do. We usually go to, like, 2. And so that's a lot of, like, younger people's work and, like, high schoolers, so we get inspiration from that. Well, at least I do. Or, like, see things that I like and things like that. And I always got inspiration from movies, but now it's, like I always, like, that's where my only inspiration to, like, coming from is movies and TV. And so it's not always something like, oh, I can do something really similar to that. It's like, oh, I like the visual, or I like that plot point. It's not, oh, this is what other people my age are doing. I can do something like it, not, oh, I like a small little snippet of it. Excuse me. Yeah, this camera means a lot. I just want to keep talking about this camera. This silly little camera that doesn't even work anymore. That's all it is. Yeah, how I got it was when we went to go see my grandparents. My brother got a Nintendo 3DS and I got this camera. I mean, I was, like, fine with my books and stuff, but also just showing that I'm content with, like, having, like, a camera with me all the time. Like, that's been me since I was a kid. I've always been the family cinematographer since I was a wee little lad. Since elementary school, my parents have always joked that I'm way better photographer than they are, and looking at some pictures from, like, recitals or plays or things like that. Yeah, it's accurate. Yeah, the camera really is what started off for the most part, and also watching movies as a kid. Is there anything else? Brain? I don't think so. Okay, you can tell that, like, I'm already just, like, going this little head dive into film, like, even more during quarantine, because now with online classes I can spend way more time working on film projects, which I love, but also it's a bit stressful, because again, like, that's just me. I'm a tryhard, and I just want to do everything. I want to do big projects, but can't with quarantine, which is sad, but it's fine. Yeah, okay, I think I'm good.